Kotiji, you can have the attendees in. Yeah. Wonderful. So let me just go ahead and start. So a very warm good evening to all of you, the audience members, as well as my panelists. And we'll get to that and to them very shortly. Thank you all very much for logging in at on this evening of Wednesday. We're all familiar with how Aarohana works. However, a few quick housekeeping tips. So we will be having all of you participants muted, and all your questions, comments, etc., kindly post them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And to the extent possible, keep it very specific. And in case you wish to direct it to any one speaker or to both, please mention that as well. You can write to us at aarohana@niceorg.in with any questions, and we'll be happy to forward them to the panelists for them to respond. Do check out niceorg.in, our website, and get to see more of the programs and everything else. And then we also have the session being streamed on Facebook, facebook.com/niceorg.in. And do join our LinkedIn group, the Nice Friends. You have the information at the bottom of the screen. So thanks again. Thanks for being here. And with those few housekeeping tips, I want to why we are here today to meet with Kirti Punia, who is with Relove and was till recently with Okai. And we will have her talk a bit more about both of these ventures. So welcome, Kirti. We have Ankit Kumar, who is one of the founders of Shugaro, that works with artisans in Agra. And what we're here today to talk about is building artisanal brands, and particularly in this area of fashion and accessories, and the challenges, the lessons, the learnings, and what they have gone through, particularly given the last 2 years of COVID, to really overcome several speed breakers and obstacles and make a massive difference to the lives of people who've been working. I also must put out a very brief apology to Kirti Punia, because I think we mentioned that she works with 2,300 artisans. It's actually 27,000. So we stand corrected, and apologies to her, and to set right that. So once again, with a very warm welcome to both the panelists, Ankit and Kirti. Let me jump right ahead and talk to you and ask you to very briefly introduce yourselves and your companies, in about a minute and a half, so that is enough time for us to deep dive into other things. First, Kirti, over to you.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here. I want to quickly tell you a little bit about my journey till here. So right when I was 13 years old, I wanted to grow up and become a fashion designer. But that didn't happen because, like all good Indian kids, I became a software engineer. But as time went by, fashion was always my calling. In 2015, I met a bunch of artisans making products and selling products, and that group was called Okai. And I felt like this could be a really big organization if only we develop the products in a more functional manner, if we change the colors that would be appealing to an international audience, and if we gave these artisans an international platform. And I think that became my calling in the last 6 years. We went from 350 women on the coast of Gujarat to last year 27,000 artisans selling from across India online on Okai's website. When I was leading this organization, I started to feel a lot more for the environment crisis and realized that we had to look for a capitalistic solution to solve the environment problem, because that's the only way it can be a mainline feature and not like a sideline initiative, right? So we built a circular economy model that works with fashion brands to give their customers a small resell button on their own websites. So from where you buy a product, you can go back and resell your product. And that helps us eliminate the production of another product, which means that the carbon footprint of the entire life cycle of a product is eliminated, while the brands can increase their revenues, they can halve their carbon footprint. We also we work with brands to help them liquidate their damaged inventory. Suppose a wrong thread has been used or a pen mark is there on the product. There have been instances where artisans wrote something with a pen on the product while embroidering it. You can liquidate all of that inventory also through Relove. And we are mainly working with brands who are using Shopify. So it's a Shopify app. Thank you.
So thanks, Kirti. That was a quick intro to both of the ventures that you are associated with, or rather, involved with, Khai and Relove. Now over to you, Ankit. You're on the footwear area, and Agra, of course, is the capital of that. So I'll leave it to you now to walk us through how you began and a bit about yourself and how you began Shugaro.
Thank you, Sanjay, first of all, for inviting me to this forum. And I was really overwhelmed by what Kirti explained about her venture and how she's solving these problems. So, as many of you may know, that Agra is also known for footwear apart from Taj Mahal. And Agra meets the 60% demand of domestic footwear in India. So, I used to give brand consultancy or e-commerce consultancy to various domestic brands here, who have originated, those brands which have originated from Agra. They have their big manufacturing facilities here, and there I met few artisans who were working as laborers in these factories, and actually those laborers motivated me and inspired me to do something for them the way I'm doing for the big manufacturers, or the domestic brand, the consultancy which I'm providing them. And in this way, I started a brand called Shugaro, which was an umbrella brand earlier for all footwear artisans, handmade footwear artisans. So Agra itself has around 200,000 footwear artisans, and in India there are around 4.5 million footwear artisans alone. So and most of them are living in abject poverty, and they do not have education. They are mostly illiterate or very less educated. So they have lost the market connect. So these are a few problems which they are facing, and the biggest problem they faced was of market connect, which they have lost, and they have learned this art from their ancestors. And in Agra, this art is 400 years old, and in many parts of the country, this art of handmade footwear making is as old as 2,000 years. In Kerala and some parts of Tamil Nadu. So I got an inspiration from few of the artisans who approached me to start something for them, and we started Shugaro. So it's a long story that when we started Shugaro, and after two successive waves of COVID, we eventually turned from B2C company to a B2B company, and now we are building and working on a Karigar Mandi, which is a platform where we are connecting all footwear artisans to various bulk buyers in the country, which also includes big brands and small retailers and wholesalers across the country. So it's a story we'll touch upon the points like how we come here, and because of this platform now we are able to touch more number of artisans. So it's a brief what I'm doing.
Wonderful. So nice to hear that. And like you said, Agra is indeed the footwear capital. Let me ask you this, Ankit. When you saw the footwear artisans and then you pivoted from B2C to B2B, obviously COVID was a big aspect of it that sort of helped you to change your focus. But outside of that, as you started your business, there were a set of assumptions I presume you would have made that, look, this is how I need to do an intervention. This is how I need to enable the artisan. This is how I will find customers, and all of those things. Now, what were those assumptions that you had made when you started Shugaro, and what were the lessons you learned? Right. First, you, Ankit, and then I'm sure Kirti would have gone through her own process of figuring out what worked and what didn't work. First, you, Ankit.
Yeah. So before starting Shugaro, I was into consultancy business, and there you see no cash is being stuck in inventory and all. And when I started very small, I registered a brand in 2017. with the name Shogaro. And in 2019, we formally registered a company and started working in that company, and we closed down all consultancy work. So at that time, I was like, I have seen these artisans working in the factory. Factory owners obviously have lots of capital with them, and they can hold lots of inventory. Uh, Means they can do anything they want. But when I was starting very new, the first hurdle I came across was these artisans could not give any kind of credit. They do not have any money with them, and especially the artisans who have lost their these cottage industry kind of units, small units which they were running at their living places. So they do not have any kind of money to afford credit. So like we have to spend money on raw materials and everything, and they just apply labor to make good footwear, and then we have to outright buy from them. So it became a very cash intensive business for us. And since we were new into this business, we did not know much about the cash conversion cycle. And so our inventories were going up, then we are working with these artisans. And you see, why these artisans lost their market connect? It is because no one has worked to improve their art, their skill. Uh, they were doing things as they have been told by their parents or grandparents. They have not implemented any kind of new technology which was available in the market. They did not have any kind of new machines with them so that they can improve upon the making of the footwear. So what we did, we started our own R&D department. We were not aware earlier that we have to do invest money in R&D also. Like we thought that such a huge number of artisans are there, and they are working in factory, but they have not improved upon their skills. This is the major problem across all footwear artisans, especially because I am in touch with footwear artisans in Karnataka, in Rajasthan, so and in NCR region also. I have not improved, worked upon their skills. This is the reason they could not connect with the new buyers in the market. So this thing we improved upon this by implementing our own R&D. And when we saw that when we gave exact, we call it tooling or artwork in the footwear. So there you see in a footwear more than 150 components are there, especially in men's shoes. So when we gave them specifications and each and everything, and we did hand holding with these artisans, they came up with very wonderful and good products. We assume that when we will take these products to big brands, they will be happy to know that we are working with artisans. And to our surprise, the brands with whom we are working right now also, earlier they refused to buy any product because they were manufactured by the artisans. So it took a process for us. It took lot of time for us to convince them that artisans can also make good quality products and good design. They can also give good design if someone could work with them. So this working with artisans was I started with artisans because I saw a huge business opportunity there. Because if I am starting a new business, I could not invest in holding inventory and having good machines which were there in factories. And if you buy from a factory, they have their some minimum quantity for single design, single color. So which was not the case with these artisans. You can buy as less as 4 or 8 pairs of single design, single color. So this is one thing which I learned, that the major part that they are not able to succeed or on their own was because no one has worked, and they were also not aware that how they should improve upon their design.
So you worked with the artisans, gave them inputs on design, on understanding of quality and all of that. And then you also spend time trying to convince the buyers,
Yes,
the larger companies, to kind of respect the work of the artisans.
Yes.
More than what they're done. So we'll come back to that in a few moments after we hear from Kirti. Because, as a software engineer, after spending several years with, a storied corporate brand like the Tatas, you kind of jumped into the world of entrepreneurship and fashion and design and all of those things. So I'm sure that there must have been some starting assumptions that you would have made. And then, as all happens to all of us, reality strikes, and then you kind of figure out that, hey, maybe, I need to perhaps recalibrate what I did. So what was that journey like? What did you learn, and what all did you have to go through with the folks you were working with on both the supply side and the demand side?
So, rightly said, it was a transition from very corporate work to now suddenly working in a village context. But at the Tata, sort of ecosystem, you're always taught to lead with empathy and to understand ecosystems and the requirements of each individual business. So I think that training, that very heavy training of working across Tata companies as a part of the TAS had really prepared me to be empathetic in every situation. So I clearly understood that this is going to be a very different business. It's going to have very significant features of an SMB as opposed to a large corporate. But how do I deploy the corporate strategy models that we built for large companies, simplify them, and how do you deploy them in a rural context? Right? So something as simple as a SWOT analysis, right? Artisans get it. They understand. If you just translate and explain it to them, right? Or building a long-term strategy plan with them, they get it. So I think the first thing was to really focus on product. And how I did that was by taking all these designers from across the world to Mithapur, where the artisans were present. A lot of them were friends, a lot of them were well-wishers of the cause, and they were traveling to India to come and do an internship with Okhai because they felt deeply for the cause. And it was also, internships work very well, and design and artisans work very well when there is a mutual learning for each one of them, right? So designers were going down there because they would learn a lot about craft by living there with the artisans and creating products. One of the first challenges was that artisans in rural India, they think in primary colors: red, green, blue, yellow. That's why you see all these very, very gaudy textiles that are coming out of there, right? So, I would take a lady from Netherlands and make her make a presentation that this is what my house looks like. This is what my outsides look like. This is the garments that everyone wears around my house. And see, my hair is yellow, so I don't want to wear yellow. Something as simple as that. Within 6 months, the artisans had learned the word subtle. And, they were like, oh, ye subtle shade. And they were very clearly, this is an onion pink, or this is a royal blue, or this is a powder blue. They knew that. So once we fix the product in terms of aesthetic and in terms of functionality, you'll see very good craft products across India, but very bad zips on the bags, right? So it's a great bag, but the horrible zip attached to it. So we got in vendors with very high quality fitments. Once the product is fantastic, you will find a pull for it in the market. And then we began sharing the stories of the artisans on social media. This was the first time where artisans were coming up and rural women were showing up on Instagram and Facebook, which created a huge acceptance and a huge viral nature of that campaign, right? We called it Working Women for Working Women, because rural women were making products for urban women to go to wear to work, and urban women were not doing them a favor. They were actually, it was a symbiotic relationship between the two. So yeah, that is how we grew. By the time the pandemic happened, we were at 2,300 artisans. The pandemic created a huge amount of pressure on the rest of the artisans to go online. And they were now willing to actually learn tech, make Excel sheets, take photographs of their products, because the middlemen were no longer coming to their house to take the products. So on video calls, we taught them how to take pictures. We taught them how to make Excel sheets. We developed the technology so that they can update their inventory sitting in a village in Kutch individually. And suddenly we scaled from 2,300 artisans to 27,000 artisans selling online on Okhai today. So that's really been the challenges and the journey. Thanks.
Wonderful. I mean, that's what is amazing is that the effort invested in exposing the artisans to what their customers or market situations were, right? By getting people to come and say, look, this is clothes I wear, this is the environment I live in. And then, they very quickly figured out what needed to be done, right? And like you said, they also learned the subtle and all of that. So what it means is that we tend to underestimate the capabilities and capacity to upgrade, right? And I think another important insight was spend time trying to understand the end use environment, actually creating the products for that environment, right? Which is also, I think, a point that Ankit alluded to by talking to the larger corporations and getting them to see value in these handmade shoes at his end. So let me move on now, to you again, Kirti. That is, getting friends and designers and sort of an intern model where everybody benefits. All of that is a fantastic way of engaging. But I'm sure there must have been other challenges, right, with regard to the equipment, with regard to funding, with regard to designs, all of those. How did you overcome some of these challenges that every business goes through, right? So how do you deal with that? And then after that, I'll ask Ankit to also talk about, the funding aspect, but that's like the number one issue for all entrepreneurs.
I think, when you go out and you're creating a vision and you're selling that vision to many people, right? You have to make an excellent business plan helps so much, right? So I remember making a business plan document and circulating that across the board of Okai for funding. And I don't remember it getting rejected, at all, ever, because it had such clear vision. It had very clear product lines. It had very clear impact that we wanted to achieve. Would be about 45, 50 slides, right? With granular information of what we were going to do. I think people undervalue a very thought through business plan and really taking out the time to making it.
Let me interrupt you very briefly here, Kirti. A business plan. How did you go about making the business plan? In other words, who did you talk to? What was that process like? Because a lot of our folks would like to also know, like you said, a very detailed business plan.
Sure. So one of the things was I was an expert in making business plans because I used to make it for $1 million companies before that, right? So I think this time I had to include a little bit of industry research. So definitely you study how brands have grown. The Fab India case study was my starting point. So I downloaded that entire case study. I think Harvard has done a case study on Fab India. And I think that's a great place for any of us to start on how William Bissell and his father and, how they structured the company, how they then included the artisans. I think that was a great point to read and how they had grown from zero revenue to, 500 crores, 1,500 crores in revenue now. The second thing was to talk to people in the industry, right? So what is a standard stock to sales ratio? I didn't know that it is 3:1, right? So if you have 3 lakhs of stock, you're going to do 1 lakh in sale. But this information is everywhere. It's there in a retailer's mind, right? So really taking out industry information, seeing, benchmarking the journeys other organizations have had. The Okai story itself is a great place for everyone to start and see how fast we grew and what we did. I think including the artisans and their vision, what is it that they want to do, right? Is money a priority? Is fame a priority? Is their heritage craft a priority? I think the most important thing in rural India is money because it is required. And then, of course, the impact you want to achieve. If women are taking money home, it's changing the social fabric of society. So how much is it that an artisan will be able to make today? And how much is it that they'll be able to make 5 years down the line if you did this, right? Secondly, types of crafts. we were working with only hand embroidery, but there was a need to do block printing and other things in adjacent and dyeing, right? Because it's a part of the product. Whereas our core was that we want to impact women who are doing embroidery, but it will become a part of your business plan because it's an adjacent requirement of your business. So the second thing is business plan workshops with your team. I think we had several workshops, and then now we have a yearly workshop to revisit the business plan, where every team member, it should have everyone, including the person who dispatches the products. He should also be in the workshop. And everyone should have a say on what the company is doing and what it should do.
So I think that's a very important point, meaning that the plan is not done in isolation. It is participative, it is collaborative, and those who are charged with the implementation play an important role in the formulation of the plan itself, right?
100%, yeah.
Very, very, very interesting. Now over to you, Ankit. How did you overcome some of the issues that you had to deal with, I'm sure, especially with regard to funding, like you said, you didn't have access to the big machines and everything else that the larger guys had.
So in the starting, you see, when I came up with the idea of Shugaro working with artisans, and I described the idea to my friends and family. So initially, I got some amount of funding from friends and family, and I started with that. And there is, of course, there is a problem of investment problem was there. So I thought about that, I how I can resolve this problem at various levels of our supply chain. So because one major problem is I have to pay to these artisans upfront. So what we did, we collaborated with a fintech company. It's a startup, and they started giving credit to the artisans who are working with us. So a credit company also has a comfort with us being in middle, and so it resolved some of our credit problem or working capital problem at that point. And then, of course, the first investor in the company was Upaya Social Venture, and they understood, tried. It took them one full year to give us their first investment, and they studied us for a whole year that what we are doing. We started talking to them before COVID, like in 2019, and the investment came in exactly 1 year after in 2020. So, and if we are looking for the investments, like you obviously you need to have your base with you, and you also need a guidance from some one from the industry. Like we have an investor from Shell Foundation on our board, Mr. Abhay Srivastava. I know him from he's a part of my alumni, so he was very much interested in our business, and he came on board, and he guided us with business plan formation, pitch deck formation, and all this. And then when Upaya came on board, we became confident that yes, our business model can move ahead. But you see, the problem of investment, we tried to solve it in the, as I said, in the supply chain. Upaya and various other investors are now on board. So they invested in our company, but yet we are trying to solve these problems at the supply chain level by introducing credit partners at the artisans level and introducing credit partners at the buyers level also. So in this way, we are reducing our capital stuck in the inventory. And since before COVID, we were B2C and D2C company, and I would like to share this point. Like before COVID, we started as a D2C company, and we have to invest huge amounts in marketing over various social media channels and over other marketplaces also. And when there was lockdown, so after lockdown, when we again started marketing, we invested huge amount again to regain our lost popularity. And during the second wave, again we stopped all our marketing. And at that time, when after the second wave, when we analyzed that how much amount we have to invest, it came to be much more than the previous amount which we have invested after the first wave. So at that point, we decided that it is better for us to move towards a different model, B2B model, where so much of online marketing is not required. So this is the way we changed our complete business model. Our investors were on board. And during the time when we switched from this B2C to B2B, we are in talks with another investor. And in middle of that, but they were convinced by our dedication. The work we are doing here is being discussed at various platforms. Yes, there are many stakeholders in the industry across India who know about what we are doing. So this convinced our investors also, and they agreed that okay, yes, what you are saying makes sense. You can change your model, and of course, it will help in covering a large number of artisans.
Got it. Got it. So I think the two quick points you're making is that ensure that the supply chain as well as on the demand side, you work with enablers to ensure that the credit, which is one of the very important things in any business, that flow happens smoothly so that both on the supply side as well as on the demand side, you're able to make sure that it's a smooth process so that you don't keep stocking inventory and servicing those needs.
Yes, definitely.
And the second is that you made sure that you were known in the industry, right? That leads me to the next question. I'll start with Kirti again. As a new company with Okai and then Rila, how do you get word out? What all did you do to make sure that you were known amongst your customers? A. B. Can you just lay out a typical persona of your customer? Who's a typical customer who kind of buys from you? And how did you reach those people?
So I'll mention Okai first, and then Relove.
Yeah, sure.
For Okai, I mean, look, there's no quick and fast way to do this, okay? You have to go through the slow process of 1 to 2 years of building where fewer people will know about your company, and and nobody's picking it up in the media or writing about you because you're just another fashion brand, right? It's a very common category. So my source was corporate women, right? I could get myself, my network was corporate, and I could get myself into pop-ups at either Axis Bank or Tata companies. So almost every Tata company, we went to the canteen and stood the whole day. And I think that's what we did. We did pop-ups for so long. And that created a very huge database of women for us who were buying because we were right in their offices. Of course, as it grows, when success comes, then PR comes. And with PR, more people find out about it. And as sales happen, then marketing budgets get increased. So your ads come in, right? But I would suggest that first 2 years should be, don't be afraid of friends and family, right? Don't be afraid of pushing them to buy your product. Sometimes you feel that I am making them and forcing them to buy these products, and this is not long-term sustainable, but it gives you the confidence. It gives you that, yes, somebody was willing to purchase this, right? And it builds the initial momentum. They will try it, they will tell their friends. So you start from your circle and then go outward. When Relove happened, that's the advantage of starting a company when you've already got 15 years of work ex, is that now you know a lot more people, right? And a lot more people have either bought your product from the last company and have interacted with what you have done in the past. So this time has been very easy for me to get the word out. I think even on my Instagram, I have a lot more followers to just quickly tell somebody what I'm doing. So my first 100 customers simply come from there. The second thing is I'm doing something novel, which is very exciting for everyone to write about, right? Because if it's a naturally unique idea, everyone wants to write about it. If it's another artisanal brand from rural India, right now there are too many, right? So it's a very big challenge for you to stand out. It's literally the business idea everyone has right now. So I would say give it your own twist. Make it unique in your own way. and then you'll get your traction more easily.
So essentially leverage all your networks, do the hard work, make sure that while the product leads, it has its own distinct edge, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And just don't be afraid of hustling. I think that's the short summary of all of this. Over to you, Ankit. All yours.
Yeah, so I correlate with Kirti what she has said. Like we should start with our friends and we should know our buyer, what he wants, what he needs. That family and friends are the first place whom you can approach with your product, with your service, and you can ask them, question them. You see what we did, we interacted, we just randomly asked various questions regarding our brand. Okay, what you like about your website? Okay, what you want, what more you want. We ask again, what you want more, what you want more. So sometimes our friends get irritated, but still they know we tell them, please bear with us and please think more that what do you want more from us. So in this way, we got various things and we incorporated all those in our brand Shugaro when we were doing it in B2C and D2C thing. So there we also like, and people can do very few small things like what we did is, and still we are doing it with because the products which we are selling to retailers and wholesalers, we are selling it in our own brand Shugaro. So we are keeping plant seeds in every footwear box, and we are also giving a story about our artisan who has made that footwear. What is his dream and what he or she wants to achieve by doing this business. So by doing all these things, we got very good response from customers, especially the generation Z and the millennials, because these were the main customers we had during our B2C and D2C. And now, since we are building our B2B business, our major customers are brands and retailers and wholesalers. The same thing we are doing with them. So we do not have any family in retailers and wholesalers, but we have some good multi-brand outlet owners who care about what, because you will find some people who will care about your process. With them, we did the same exercise. What more you want from us? If we are building a platform, as a customer, what you want more from us? So in this way, they came up with various things which none other B2B platform is providing. So we are trying to implement all those things in our platform. And in this way, this is the only thing. Questioning the customer, I think, is one major thing everyone needs to do before and during the process. It's a process. You should always question your customers with whom you can interact, with whom you are comfortable. And also, if you're not comfortable, then also if you can do this exercise with them.
Right. In other words, there's no shortcut. You have to burn the shoe leather and go and talk to as many people as possible. And I think a very important thing in B2B that I've also observed, your customer's customer needs to be happy, right?
Definitely.
Particularly in a B2B context. And therefore, your ability to understand, like you said earlier, your Gen Z and millennial crowd, they in turn would be buying from your current B2B customers. So having that insight also perhaps must be.
Yes, it is helping us a lot. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So now let me turn again to Kirti. Now, all this work that you've done and, 27,000 odd people who are kind of working closely with Relove, Okai, Combo and all of that. Tell me, how do you ensure that the brand values and everything else that it stands for, and on the back end, the consistency in quality, in the finish, in the designing, in the turnaround of the newer products, all of that, how do you ensure that that remains consistent?
So two things for that. One is great processes, right? And of course, coming from large company structures, where there are enterprise level processes and department level processes. I think I was able to deploy the same process structure of a large company into a small organization, which then grew on the foundation of those processes. The second thing is people, right? Because at the end of it, the most inefficient thing and the most defect causing thing is a human being, right? Machines don't make that many mistakes. So what happens is, how do you keep people very, very attuned with your value system, with your product? How do you keep them happy? And how do you hire very exceptional talent, right? And
So
then
tell us that. How do you hire exceptional talent? I'm sure that will be used to everybody.
very, very focused on hiring exceptional talent. I think that is something I've always been able to do. And because you alone cannot run your company, you have to
True.
have very good people. My hiring
Let me
process.
just hold you there for a second. I think you make an excellent and a very important point that you need to have high caliber people around you, because it's not possible to build a big brand or a big business all by yourself. So keeping a lookout for talent, right, is one of the jobs of the founder CEO.
Yes. I literally have a saved list, both on Instagram and LinkedIn, where I see somebody performing very well and I save that person for years and I watch that person, and that is like my go-to person, to interact with for a long duration. So keep a lookout for people. You may not hire them right now, but you may hire them next year, year after that. But you need to keep your relationships and awareness that this person exists, and what is the nature of work they do. The second thing is a very, very thought through hiring process. So my hiring process has always been almost 7 rounds long, which includes shortlisting of resumes, not less than 50 for every role, not less than 30 interviews per role, and then there's a written test. If they don't complete the written test, they are not serious about joining your company, or not serious about documenting and using processes. It also includes peer interviews, interviews through other people in the company. It also includes a value and system check, which means that are they of the same value system and are they a good cultural fit in the company. And definitely the strongest and the most important tool that nobody uses very actively is a reference check. Right, I do a minimum of 4 reference checks of their past peers and supervisors, which helps me get a full correct picture of every individual before I hire them.
Wow, that is absolutely phenomenal. I have not heard this amount of diligence being performed on with regard to hiring from a company, which is not a giant corporation, which is rather phenomenal. Absolutely unbelievable. Fantastic.
I would rather spend 5 days extra in making that effort and saving the rest of my year.
Absolutely, yeah, because the cost of that of a mistake can be pretty serious. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, Ankit.
Yeah, so I think you asked about how we maintain the quality and of our work. So in our organization, again, we are working on the supply chain side. So what we do is our work is to get footwear manufactured. So we ensure the quality of the raw material which is supplied. And the first thing is the raw material which is supplied to the artisans for the orders they are getting through us. They need to buy these raw materials from our authorized vendors. Or most of the time, it is our graded raw material which is being supplied. So it took us very long, like 3-4 years. It took us to implement all these things in the field to grade various vendors of raw material, grade the raw material there, and we have established this thing. So raw material problem is being solved. Then since R&D is being done in house, so uh, you see, if you see a footwear is made of various components, they are stitched together. So they need to artisans need to cut all these things. They use a pattern. So they use a pattern of cardboard and all those things. So we give them metallic patterns, and so everything we give them, every tooling, every artwork we give them the perfect thing. And so it all again reduces the chances of defect in the product. And then we have implemented a strong QC check at 2 levels of manufacturing. Footwear is being manufactured in around there are 10 to 12 different processes in which a single footwear is being manufactured. So there are two. We have find out that there are two important stages. At these stages, if a footwear is checked So suppose at stage 1, if there is a defect, then it can be remade. And now if it is perfect at stage 1, then the next checking stage, in between, if any defect has appeared, so if we again check at that stage, then those defects can be removed and footwear will not go waste. So these are the few things, QC processes which we have developed, which are being done at the place of these artisans. So there are least, like, less than 1%. Our QC defects are less than 1%, means around 0.4, 0.5% QC defects are there. Uh, when we are supplying, you see, around 4,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 pairs a month, then not more than 0.5% defects we detect. And all these defects can be like rectified. These are not that footwear go away. So this is the way we have implemented QC check in our product.
Got it. So again, it comes down to remaining very focused, understanding what the process is, figuring out where the failure points are, and continuously iterating to make sure that you by the right set of tools or templates, you are able to minimize the challenges you have. So let me now ask you again, Ankit. You've been in this business now for a few years, Shugaro, and then you've got your B2B marketplace. You've got the credit system to enable people to go, all of that. Clearly, building these artisanal brands in India, right, is not yet a playbook that someone can follow. What do you think are the big obstacles that prevent Indian artisanal brands from emerging, A, at a national scale, and B, on the international scale? And what would you recommend be done to deal with those obstacles?
See, first, as I said that, like, when we talk to big brands, people do not have confidence in the products. I am talking about footwear. I did not have much idea of other artisanal categories. But in footwear, what we found that people do not have too much of faith in the footwear manufactured by these artisans. And the reason is the same, that these artisans could not innovate in their work. They could not learn the new techniques and all. So, see, you have to work hard to implement processes. And see, being a livelihood sector company in the impact investment spaces, of course, investment is required. The comment I get from various commercial investors is, in the livelihood sector, we could not see too much of a scale in your business. Whereas I could see too much of a scale in our business if we implement processes, because there are no standard processes being built in for each category. I know few other very successful founders who are running good startups in the artisanal space. They are growing with good pace because they have implemented processes at the level of manufacturing. Because if you machines have a process, they have a structure, they work in a same fashion each day and every day. So you have to build these things at the level of artisans. You have to build processes and implement those processes. And investors, and also I must say that governments should also trust private entities, those who are working in these fields, to support them financially, so that they can work with these artisans and implement processes, and then we can take these benefits. I absolutely believe that we can become unicorn. Like, where is the problem? Like, I have supply and there is huge demand which is there. The only thing is, I'm not able to cater. I'm not able to produce such a good quality, or that quality of product that can be sold to the demand which is there in the market. So if I implement the processes, I can sell it. I can cater the demand and make a big brand out of it.
Got it. Thanks. Kirti, what are your thoughts?
I think in terms of quality, there will be a challenge, right? You're working with a handmade product, and handmade, they say the defect is the effect, and the little unevenness in every piece is what makes it handmade, right?
Correct.
I think we have always used it to its advantage, and we have communicated the beauty of that unevenness that you will not get in machine embroidery. So instead of making it symmetrical and making it perfect, how about we change the customer's mind to buying something uneven and beautiful because it is handmade?
And each is a unique piece, therefore.
Each is a unique piece, therefore, right? And each has its, there is beauty in that unevenness. And, thankfully so, last few years, people have wanted to live the suburban life, the life in the farm, right? And they've understood that that furniture is uneven, that shoe is uneven, and it's more earthy looking, right? And that culture of urban audiences living in cities wanting to live that farm life has actually helped us sell something handmade and slightly defected to them, right? The second thing is, like, today in Relove, we sell defected products. So what we do is, this is all factory defects. I don't know, while growing up, a lot of you may be going to factory outlets in Gurgaon and Bombay and buying your factory outlet Nike and Benetton stuff. I've done that. So what we're doing now is selling digital factory defect products. There's a software that we've developed that plugs into the brand's own inventory. How they do that is by describing what is the defect, and inside your product page, you can click on view images and view the defect. So if there is a wrong thread used, you can see the fresh product and you can see what this one has as defect. So how you could buy an extra small, medium, and L. Now you can buy an extra small with a hole on the shoulder, and medium with a hole on the sleeve, and L with a pen mark. What we realized was that people were very okay buying these as long as there was transparent communication, right? So we sold a dress with a pen mark, and it was a kids' wear dress. And the lady was like, I'm totally cool with it because my kid is going to put another mark in it in 5 minutes. So transparency is one of the biggest ways, and communication is one of the biggest ways in selling the product you are proud of selling, right?
Yep, I think it's such a wonderful point, because end of the day, people aren't really buying a product per se. They're buying the story around the product, that it is handmade, it has got so much of craft work in it, there is heritage embedded in that product, and so on. So the narrative construction and communication is critical. And I think you make a very important point as well, which is about the transparency. Because once people know what it is, I think the trust in the brand goes up, and therefore that kind of reduces the friction involved in the buying process. And I think that's, one has to keep doing this over and over and over again, for us to kind of overcome all of these obstacles.
Give you another example. In Relove, we sold aprons with oil marks on it, and people bought those aprons saying that we are also going to put oil marks on it. It's fine.
Yeah. So I think what's happening is also there is the demographic shift that is taking place, that is making people proud to buy earthy artisanal products, and especially if it resonates with their sense of heritage and all of that. So we're coming towards the end. There are 4 questions. Let me very quickly ask those questions that the audience members have put in. There are 3 questions that have come in from Mumal Nirwan. Asks, Ankit, this is for you. Your initial team size, how did you grow it? Next question for Kirti. How does one collaborate with international designers apart from colors? And there's a question on shareholding, Ankit. I leave it to you to respond to that. Then we'll get to Supriya's question.
Okay. So before COVID, in the starting, when we started 2019, our team members were 10, including 3 co-founders. And now we are 7, including 3 co-founders. So we have mostly outsourced most of our tasks, like designing part is being outsourced to an agency here in Agra, which is working for us.
Understood. And would you want to talk about the shareholding?
95% is being held by the co-founders. 5% is as a mentoring equity with various accelerators. Most of the investors have invested in convertible bonds.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Question for you, Kirti, again from asks, Any insights into the challenges of collaborating with international designers apart from color?
So I think you have to be very clear of what the exchange is. So in our case, we were part of something known as Women on Wings. It was a Dutch-based organization that was connecting us to designers internationally. But we were very clear.
Can you repeat the name of that organization, please?
Women on Wings.
Oh, Women on Wings. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Indo-Dutch organization that works in India. It's funded by the Dutch government, and it helps Indian companies working with women artisans. So if you get selected to be a part of the cohort, they help you with international designers from Netherlands. But that was one of the challenges. One of the ways in which we got international designers. They were also reaching out to us, writing to us, right? So one of the things is that you don't know this person. They are writing to you. They want to be a part of it. Getting the barter system documented is very important. So we said, we'll take care of your travel and stay for a month in the village, all of that. We'll host you, food included, and you will produce 25 samples, right? And we will pay for the sample material, everything. Artisans will work on the samples, and the samples will be owned by Okhai, right?
That is a very important point.
Yeah. So just get one little agreement in place that, look, this is what is happening. Otherwise, somebody will come and they'll make a very complicated design. You will not use it. They will not use it. It will just get lost. So every time somebody came, stayed for a month, we got 25 samples. That was great. And these then belong to the artisans. Because the designer artisan community, the tradition is that the designer produces the design, artisan works as hard on it, but the profits are made by the designers, right? We were reversing the logic. Artisans were getting designers to come, stay there, make the designs, and artisans owned the products.
Fantastic. I think it's a great, I think there's a lot of important lessons there, particularly as it relates to the idea about ownership, design, and intellectual property, which is something, again, that as a country we need to really. There's a question now for you, Kirti. Again, how did you come up with that name, Okhai?
I didn't come up with it. The artisans are from a village called Okha. And in Gujarati, Okhai means from Okha.
Okay, good. Question from Vandya to both of you. Are impact investors interested in funding a for-profit, or is it just, funding a not-for-profit?
Now, they're very actively interested in funding for-profits. If any one of you is raising funds, please email me your deck, and I will connect you to correct investors, good investors. And I will be very happy to even look at it myself. You can send it to me at kirti@relove.in.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Ankit, what's been your experience with quote unquote impact investors?
So my experience was impact investors obviously invest in, you need to have a private limited company. Any investor would invest in a private limited company. And if you are an NGO, there are many opportunities in India. And for any kind of investment, whether you're asking for an non-profit or for-profit, you should start connecting with various kind of organizations. Like you should, like the NICE organization, you should connect with them. You can connect, start exploring, like huge network of acumen fellows are there in India. You can apply to that. If you get selected, it would be a very huge or good opportunity for you. And apply for various accelerator programs. So you should need to start exploring on Google what all accelerator programs are there. There are many good accelerator programs through which you will also get funding opportunities. So I have this advice.
Great. Last question before we wrap up. I know we've kind of really overshot our 6 p.m. time. Question for Kirti from Margaret Zinu. She says, I'm a textile designer, home textiles. Understand the craft and community. We would prefer to find a market rather than bringing a designer. What would be the way to do that?
No, I didn't get the last part of the question.
So the question is, I understand my craft and community, which is about home textiles. I prefer to find a market rather than just bringing on board a designer. What would be the way in doing that? I guess, you don't find a designer without knowing the market, right?
So she's not a designer herself. Margaret, you're not a designer. You can also, I think, can she unmute? Then maybe we can get the question. So definitely you need the market before you start producing or designing for that market. International market is huge for textile, especially from India, and unique textiles are very, very sought after. It's a chicken and egg story. How will you present your work if you don't have a set of designs? So identify roughly the kind of customers you want to pitch to, make the samples, send the sample for photographs, and then you may get like an order, and you can get like an order for actually building out a collection. So, I would say that if you're not ready to make an investment into hiring a designer, take what artisans have and from your own sense, improve the colors, improve some things about it, and send that.
Great. So it's an iterative process. You have a starting hypothesis that you have to validate. Right. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And that gets us to the end of this session of Aarohana on artisanal brands. There are a few more questions that are popping up now about measuring impact and everything else. What we will do is we'll just, forward some of these mails to you. And if you can respond to them, that will be helpful. So all that remains for me, of course, is to thank the audience for participating. Thank my panelists, Kirti and Ankit. Thank you so very much. You shared some really good insights into how you went about building this, and very grateful for you taking your time for today. Thank you very, very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.